For more than 2 decades, Nate Berkus has transformed the way we see and feel design, blending soul, storytelling, and style into every space he touches. Nate's work reminds us that home is the most intimate expression of who we are. With the release of his new Rizzoli book, Foundations, he invites us once again to rediscover beauty, meaning, and memory. One story, one room, one life at a time. This is Beyond the Design.
Well, Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it's been more than a decade from your last book, The Things That Matter. Why now Foundations?
You know, that's such a good question. I actually was reticent to write a third book. And the book that I wanted to write is not Foundations. It started as like, I thought this was the best idea, by the way. And I was championing the idea of doing a room by room set so that somebody could just buy like a little volume for bathroom renovations, design inspiration. Where do I start? But broken up room by room. And I went with my sort of genius, uber creative battle axe book agent who did my very first book. She's like a Dallas fixture, Jan Miller. And she was like, well, we can try, honey. But I don't know.
She must be from the South.
She is. She's Texas. And it was just, I don't know, it was great. But every publisher that we met with was like, it's a really dumb idea because of the cost of paper. And then we have to make 20 covers. So just do that, but do it in one book. And so that is how Foundations was born. There was a lot of talk about doing like a monograph of like a very expensive, beautiful coffee table book, sort of celebrating me and everything that I've done in design for the last 30 years. And it didn't feel right. And what felt right was writing sort of a thank you note with practical information to all of the people who have supported me for all of these years. And so that is really the genesis of the book. It's very much how to, very easy to turn to whatever relevant information you need, from everything to like a measuring guide, typical measurements to have on your phone when you're shopping, to projects and beautiful imagery of the last 30 years of what I've been up to.
So it's in essence kind of a how-to for the reader and a step-by-step visually as well, so they can actually engage and track what they need to do in their next steps. Is that kind of the foundation of the name Foundation?
It is. It's what is the what do I believe the good foundation of design really is after all these years, 700 years of doing this. And so for me, what I really wanted to think about was it actually like brought me back to the Oprah days, because we used to craft the television makeover segments based on the pre-social media feedback that we would get asked at Harpo. And so I thought to myself, why don't I just set out to answer anyone's question or anyone's potential question, broken down room by room. And it is most definitively a how-to book. The difference between, I think, Foundations and a lot of the how-to books that are out there is that you kind of get the shiny, beautifully photographed, sort of deeply resonant, coffee table book, but within it is just filled with practical information, which the woman who worked with me on the book, my brain shuts down in math. I cheated on every math and science test. I was like, it was like really, when I took my SATs for college, my math score was so abysmal. They were like, this can't be right. Like we must have something must be wrong. So English always soaring, language always soaring, and any sort of science was just horrible. So I worked with this woman, Heather Somerville, who was a magazine editor and understood how to craft the book into small, digestible bites, even though it's 400 pages. So that was the goal. That makes
sense, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. My brain shut down. Like when she was like, well, what do we think chapter 1 should be? And what so I was like, I don't know. My ear just fell off. I have no clue.
Well, books are very labor intensive. What was a motivation or inspiration that finally pushed you to do another book? Because sometimes it can take 2 to 3 years, especially if it's heavily instructional and the imagery that to be compiled.
Yeah, it was a zoo. my team, I have very little turnover in my firm. And so I have people that have worked for me for 20, 25 years. And I had the best team helping me assemble all the imagery from all of our projects. Mm-hmm. Some people have seen, some people have not yet. We saved it for Foundations. And I just thought, you know what? The 30-year anniversary of my design firm is a really great time to put something out to just share everything I've learned in the last 30 years, what I've made mistakes doing, what I've learned from those mistakes. And I really have had this foundational belief since the very beginning of my career that, you know, if somebody is going to take the time and the money after they're done with their paycheck, whatever's left over, to make improvements to their home, I really want my product to deliver. I want the things I designed to deliver, and I definitely want the book to deliver.
Yeah. And I think, you know, because it is something that's intuitive or educational and informative, it's easier for, I think, the end user to absorb it instead of sitting on a computer. It's like, how do I do this? How do I do this? More instructional with visionary, where I think most information on how-tos on the internet is very flat.
It's super flat, and it's also not necessarily tested.
Correct. Yeah.
So you have all these Instagram kind of designers who are really just editing images together, but they've never put together or assembled or ordered or manage the installation of an actual design project. And I have 30 years of experience doing that. And so what I wanted to do with the book was, yes, let me take a $5 million project, but let me break down what elements you can use from that project. You always, as in design, you always have to shoot high. Right. You have to know, it's kind of like that old thing they say when you're like in art school studying to be a painter, the first thing you have to learn to do is draw an apple before you can make a portrait. And the funny thing about design is that the philosophies behind my design firm and behind the decisions that I've made are universal, and they're super easy to understand and follow. So why not demonstrate those with the best examples that we've got to show? It's not other people's work, it's mine. And so I felt really strongly about being able to, like, one thing that I love in the book is that we do this thing where we break down the room, and what we do is we show how the homeowner gathered their own inspiration, the imagery of that, the words associated with that, so people can search those design terms online easily, and then we show the room before, and then show the room after. And then we break down every element in the room to show the reader how it connects back to what the original inspiration was. You might not be able to find a pair of, 19th century urns, but you can certainly find urns that look shape, like that.
Form,
exactly.
Profile,
Exactly. So what makes me happy about that is that I feel like it's bridged exactly what I've bridged my entire career. It's how to make high design understandable and accessible to everybody.
On the tips that are going to be incorporated in the book, is there tips? Because a lot of websites, they say price tag, you can get this to here, this to here. Do you give them more of a guidance as well? It's like, go do shopping, go here. Or
I try to, yes, there is a sourcing list, but I tried to not call out specific vendors. It's more, how do you think about it? What are the search terms? What are the different periods, so that you can decide for yourself, oh, I never realized that was neoclassical, that detail on the leg, but I really love that. Now I know the word, and now I can put that into any search engine. I can put it in Google, I can figure it out, and everything's going to come up for me, and then I can make the decision.
Right.
So it was really more about what styles go together, I think, what has been successful in terms of creating a deeply personal interior, what elements are important for that.
What do you hope readers will take away from Foundations? And do you hope that the professional will gather some information as well? Because we don't know everything as designers and creatives. We weren't taught everything in school, unfortunately, and we sometimes have to go to other sources. Do you think both end user and people within the industry will find this useful?
I think so. I mean, I'm pretty harsh about, fake design, and, it's like, I'm pretty clear about it. I don't really mince my words. But I think that, yes, I do. I think if anything, for the industry, especially for the new people coming up in the industry, and even people considering design as a second career, et cetera, it's just a different, very unique way of organizing your thoughts before you sort of print your business cards.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what? This is my suggestion of what I think you need to know to create and assemble successful interiors and rooms that represent the people that live there. That's my best shot. 30 years in, I don't have anything else to say right now. It's all in the book. I'm exhausted.
Buy the book.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, my other choice is to like go get Kris Jenner's facelift. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
No, well, I think it might, listen, let's not rule it out. We can talk about that later.
No, that's fantastic. So, I mean, there's not many intuitive books out there that are colorful with imagery and kind of categorized in this sense, because most of it is just very verbiage heavy and how-tos. So I think it's very informative to the end user to see this and kind of, this, as you mentioned, if you look at a vase and what's that vase, what's this word mean? It's intuitive and educational, what I think is missing from a lot of other books comparable.
Well, I don't think people really read design books. I think they look at
pictures.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I look at the photos, and then rarely, if I see something within a photo, I'll like read the caption.
Right.
But I'm really never really reading somebody else's philosophy because I don't really care.
All right.
And I think that it's not that I don't care because I don't think there's tons of talent and there's 700 correct ways to do a room. Right. There's both. But this book is actually meant to be read. And so I kind of cut a lot of the anecdotal stuff. I kind of cut the personal stuff. I don't think anybody's that interested in where I like to travel or how much I love the Paris flea market. Like, who cares? Everyone's heard that 1,000 times. It's like, if you find yourself in Cleveland, Ohio or Paris, France, where should you go?
Right.
What do you Google? What do you ask the hotel, to find the antiques area or the one small town 15 minutes away that's blanketed with vintage? Like, that's really how I want people to start thinking about it, because we live in an era of too much stuff, of scary tariffs that might be happening or might not be happening. The world is falling apart in 1,000 ways. And I remember distinctly after 9/11 thinking to myself, wow, who's going to buy a sofa after this event? Yeah. And what happened is that everybody kind of internalized and went into their homes and started looking around thinking, wow, I could live a little nicer than this at any price. I should pay attention to this. I should organize that pantry, or I should buy myself a new pillow. And I think we're bumping up against an era where it's going to be a little bit insular again, and we're going to get a lot of comfort from the beauty that we create in our own homes.
I think, as you mentioned, COVID and 9/11, people started looking inward and seeing their home as an extension of their personalities and who they are, and paid more attention to it instead of just stuff to fill a room so it looked pretty.
It's like, well, you couldn't do that weekend warrior thing anymore. You couldn't go out to the big box store in COVID and buy yourself new pillows and a pair of new lamps and whatever. So it was a lot of online, and it was a lot of virtual. And it was a lot of ordering fabric samples from, do I like this, and bringing it in and getting really excited when a sofa was delivered in the middle of COVID, or a new painting or whatever it was, or a new mixing bowl. Right. But I think, I think that the power of design, the power of home will never go away.
True.
I think we go in waves in terms of how much attention we pay to it.
I want to see, especially being locked down, you're looking at those four walls.
Oh my God. I ripped my own house apart. I was like, this place is awful.
This is not a character.
I was like, Jeremiah, this is your fault.
You have someone to blame. There you go.
It was perfect.
Well, as you mentioned, you've had your firm for 30 years now. How has the interior design industry changed most drastically? And where do you think it's going? I mean, we have such...
It's going to AI.
Yeah.
That's where it's going. So let's be honest. I mean, you can put in... what would Nate Berkus do to this room? Right. And AI can look at every project ever published. Yeah. I mean, so I think that that's true. I think that the human element of that, the creative sourcing, the understanding how to find really wonderful things at the right price, is never going to be replaced by AI. I think the deeply personal details are never going to be able to be achieved by AI, and also the relationship. I think interior design, I was a sociology major. I mean, interior design is about getting to know the people that live in this space and really understanding what they find marginally humiliating and what they find a victory and how they want to be represented and how they wish to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our job as designers to kind of dig into that and really craft an interior that dreams a dream that's a bigger dream for them than they are able to dream for themselves. But I think that AI is going to definitely impact the industry. And then I also think that sort of the old guard is going to be really important in the period coming up, because we know stuff and we've got stuff to share, and we're not all snobs and we're not all brats and we're not all, there's some good people in this business that these spaces really matter and these homeowners really matter to them. And so I think it's going to be an interesting ride.
We'll see. Well, I think also accessibility. A lot of end users look at Etsy and Pinterest and other platforms saying, I want this. But I think they're forgetting that one step. Does it fit your lifestyle? Does it fit who you are?
Right.
And where you need to go? And if you have 5 kids, you can't have all white.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Also, it's like there's no sort of governing plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just buy everything you like and put it all together, because that doesn't really work.
Right.
You've got to have somebody to bounce your ideas off of that says, that is going to feel really trend driven in a year. That's not a great call.
Right.
But let's take a list of 10 things that you would love, that when your eye lands on those elements, when it travels around your room, it'll bring you joy. And let's figure out which of those 10 should make it in, because it's not all 10.
True. Or it's going to look very interesting.
Right, exactly. Like my mother's house. I'm like, Mom, honestly.
Okay. Minimize.
Can we do an edit here?
Exactly. We haven't done it. With social media and design seems more accessible and trend driven, do you think that's a gift or a challenge?
I hate trends. I think they're designed to make people feel bad about what they don't have. So I don't subscribe to what the World Bureau has to say. I don't care what the Pantone color of the year is. I think that to create an interior that really reflects you, and sort of who you aspire to be and represents who you are and who you love and who you've loved and where you've been and where you aspire to go. Trends are just noise. So even in my capacity as a creative director of my own brand and creating product that's sold everywhere, it's my job in that capacity to understand what the trends are, but I never follow them. Never. And I think that's why, if you look kind of over the course of everything that I've ever designed and sold at Linens and Things, HSN, Target, you name it, all of the partnerships that I've had over the course of my career, it's never been one thing. It's been my version or my interpretation of what I think feels assembled and collected over time.
If there's 3, or maybe 4, lessons learned from foundations are the greatest lessons that really strike you, that would be the best lesson learned for the reader, what would they be?
You always have to incorporate something old into a space. You can't just order a room from a catalog or from a new furniture store and ask for help. There's very talented designers that work in furniture stores that can assemble a room that will function beautifully and the scale will be right and all of that. But if you don't have something old, I prefer several things to be old in a room, but if you have to at least have something, then the room will be flat. There's no patination, there's no history, there's no sense of what might have come before. So that's probably number 1. 2, I would say, get to know yourself before you embark on the project. Quiet the noise. Don't listen to what's going on TV or on TikTok or on Instagram. Really understand. And in the book, I talk about how to understand yourself and what you gravitate towards and how you can translate what you really love into like sort of proper furniture decisions and decorating decisions. But I think we're all in such a rush to achieve something, to check the box.
Fix,
and good design really isn't about that. Good design is an evolution and it's constant. And when you find that one new thing at a garage sale or an auction or a flea market or an estate sale, the room, in order for the room to rise up around it, sometimes you have to continually make small changes.
True.
And I think that's fine.
I think people need to look at their home as well. And I like that you mentioned something old, because I go something old, something borrowed, something blue, that saying.
Exactly.
It's like those are elements that mean something, but also I think people need to look at their homes. It's an experiential environment.
Yeah.
You're creating a home, and it's a home for you. It's home for your family. It's home to gather, to bring people in. So you need experiences within that home. It's not just somewhere to eat, sleep, and,
No, you know
else.
what? I think what people really want and have always wanted is to feel connected in their space. I think there's something about, going about your everyday life and doing it within an environment that really represents the best side of yourself and your family. That backdrop is really powerful. I've seen that through all the TV makeovers. When a home is organized and the kids have a designated place to do their homework, they do it.
Right.
When your kitchen is wonderful, you're more experimental. It's just like having a clean closet. Like, you dress better when you can find all your stuff. If you love cooking, when you invest in a beautiful kitchen or even beautiful dishes, it changes the effort. It makes the effort feel fun. And that is something that is a psychological fact that I would bank the last 30 years on. I've just watched it happen.
Right.
I've just watched it happen over and over and over at every aspect of the marketplace, from a TV makeover to somebody who had never even considered how their home could help them live better or feel better about their life, to private clients with a gazillion dollars. And it still is a universal thing.
True. Right. Very, very true. There's two words that are thrown around quite a bit, and it's timeless and classic design. What principles of design in your mind will always remain timeless no matter how the industry shifts?
I think, one of the things that I've done and continue to do is look to history to inspire what to do now. And so for me, a rule of thumb, especially when it comes to renovation and making design decisions, is when you see something 500 times on Instagram, that is not what you should be installing in your kitchen. That is exactly what you shouldn't be paying attention to. My rule of thumb is if the material's been around since the 20s and used in homes since the 1920s, it's a pretty good bet that you're not going to get tired of it.
Right.
Do your own combination, and let's not avoid technology. Technology is amazing. I don't have that thing. I don't use Siri in my home or our home or any of that stuff. But I know a lot of people do, but I'm not interested in the man that grabbed me at the kitchen and bath show 10 years ago to show me his countertops that change color when you touch them like a mood ring. I'm never installing those in a client's home. I don't care about the innovation. And give me a Carrara marble with a beautiful edge detail. Give me a soapstone, a material that was used in chem labs in the 19th century. I want what's built into a home to stand the test of time.
Makes perfect sense. And you say Carrara marble, that was going through my head while you're answering. That's like the Romans used it.
Exactly. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. How could you go wrong?
You can't. Limestone, iron, parchment, leather, oak, walnut, bronze, brass. These are all nickel. These are all things that have been around forever. yes, we have a lot of choices to what forms those take, what shapes we can make our backsplash into. But kind of let's not be super experimental in the things that we might have to hire someone to change someday
or fix.
Yeah. I mean, go, if you can fix it yourself or change it yourself, you can switch out your pillows. You can buy new lampshades. You might even be able to take down your own wallpaper. I can't, but you could, but if you can change it yourself someday, go for it. But, to change kitchen countertops, it involves, demo, the plumber has to come back. The sealer has to go. I mean, it's like, why? Pick something timeless, that, and decorate around it. Let that be how you, if you care about trends or are taken by trends, let that be how you interpret them, not through what you have to hire a tradesperson to come in and fix.
Yeah. Every 5 to 10 years when the new color comes about, it's like, oh, I got to go.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like a real estate addict. And Jeremiah and I have lived in, over 20 homes since we've been together for 13 years. And, I can't stand walking into, we just looked at an apartment here in New York the other day that it's like, I'm like, that was a late 90s renovation. Every material was exactly, it's like carbon dating. It's like taking like taking like a mummy. You just know that was 1986.
Yep. Or that desert rose color. 80s.
Seriously.
No one's ever going to use it again.
No,
it's
gone.
Yeah.
It'll come back and then somebody will ask like, hey, what do you think?
No, it's the 80s.
Desert
again.
rose?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Nate, you've had such a multifaceted career, from interiors, product collaborations to television. What connects all these and various components together for projects for you?
Philosophy. Remaining true. I will tell you this, when you're 26 years old and you're invited to be part of the Oprah show and you stay on that show for almost 10 years, you get a lot of opportunities. Everybody wants to put your name on something. Everybody, you could make a lot of money sitting on a toilet at a home improvement convention.
Have you done a toilet?
What's that?
Have you done a toilet?
No, I've never done a toilet, but nor have I sat on one publicly. But I will say that what that taught me early on was that it's really important to maintain a philosophy around the public sort of, whether it's product design or TV or writing or publishing. It doesn't matter. No is really important in that situation. And so you have to be very, very careful and very, very strategic. I still to this day have such tremendous respect for somebody that when they've figured out their budget for the month and they realize they have an extra $50 and they want to make a change in their home, if they choose to buy something with my name on it, I feel deeply, deeply responsible that delivers. I don't care if it's a pillow or a dog bed or whatever it is. I want to make sure that the quality's there. I want to make sure that it will make the change that they're hoping it'll make when they get it back and take it out of the box or take it out of the trunk or whatever it is. And so I've been really careful. I've been careful for 30 years. Grace goes a long way in this world. Be the guy that when they see your name on the calendar, they're not like, oh man, it's going to be a long afternoon. I meet with companies all the time and I'm like, you guys, I'm 53 years old. Like, let's have a good time.
Right.
We're not, this is not an organ donation.
Right.
This is a bath mat. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Let's have some fun with it.
Like, come on. It's like, we can do this.
Yeah. Well, given that, I mean, you have a lot of integrity in your products that you deliver to the end user. What started you on that path? I mean, from being an interior designer, most interior designers just, they do the projects, they hum along and they enjoy what they do. What made you think, okay, I want to do this. I want to provide it to the end user. How did that, cycle?
The opportunity came to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be super honest about that. And I'll tell you a funny story about that because I was on the Oprah show and the very first licensing opportunity came and I worked with actually these two women here in New York City because I didn't know how many tines were on a fork. I didn't know how wide a twin sheet would be and long. And, I like panicked when I signed my first deal with linens and things. But the funniest part of that story is that I went into Oprah's office. I scheduled my little 15 minutes and I went into Oprah's office and she was behind her desk. And I said, hi, so I have this really cool opportunity. I mean, I've never even considered this, but this retailer at the time came to me and said, we really want to build a collection. Would you be interested in doing it? And it sounds great. Mm-hmm. And I said, would you consider featuring it on the Oprah show? And she said, well, I have to see it first. Don't embarrass me. Remember. And I was always very aware that it was her brand in the beginning, and I didn't want to do anything cheesy.
Right.
So I never did. But then I looked at her and I was like, well, hang on, like, do I need to give you like money? Like, do you take a part of that? Because, I was new to TV, new to product design, new to everything. And she looked at me and she raised her eyebrow and she goes, do I look like I need your money? I was taken. Like, got it. Thanks. I'll send you the products as soon as they're made. But it started me on this journey of, finding inspiration around the world, being in places. I remember being in Naples, Italy with friends, and they were all way ahead of me. And I was taking pictures of how the marble came together in the floor of a cathedral and the iron grate of a window. And they were like, come on. And I was like, no, it's going to be a pattern on a comforter at Target. Just give me a minute. So I'm an irritating person to travel with in some ways because my eyes are always open and I'm always curious as to how I can translate a particularly beautiful design element, jump a category and turn something that is a historic, wonderful, beautiful thing into something that somebody can buy.
Yeah. It never turns off.
No, it never turns off. No, and I married somebody who that also never turns off.
So this is a question I have then. How do two creatives create a home that is symbolic of both them and is harmonized?
He's really talented. And I didn't really know that until we did our first TV show together. We used to fight on set. We used to like take our mics off and like stand in the corner and I'd like, unplug and I'd be like, what are you doing? And he was like, this isn't the Nate show anymore. He was like, there's not one way to do this. And I know you've been the boss of your whole little, everyone in TV thinks they're they run their own universe. Right. It's like so sad. But that was a lesson that I had to be like sort of smacked with. Like he was like, I'm here too. And I don't think that rug is the right choice. And I don't like the way that you're laying out the room. And in all fairness, he was right. Like I had been kind of at the head of my own little world for so long that I really wasn't used to significantly considering somebody else's take on something. And after the first few makeovers that we did together on TV, I was like, I would have never thought of that. And I couldn't love that more. So the truth is we have one rule in our home. If one person says absolutely not, then we can't try and sell the concept to each other. It's off the table. It's gone. There's no arguing. There's no, but what about zero? And that's actually avoided a lot of sort of friction. But I have a lot of respect for what he does and how he sees things. And, he also has no design education. I never went to design school. I was a sociology and French major. He designed nightclubs in LA, but he's got that thing where, you look at a space and it's like in his mind, he can see exactly what he wants it to be. And I have that thing, but we don't always agree. And so we fight about who ate the last piece of pizza more than we fight about whether or not you like that chair.
So over the time, you said 13 years you've been together?
Yeah.
Has it kind of meshed together where you can't differentiate? Is that my design style or is that his or is it now just ours?
It's, you know what? That's a great question. In our homes, it is a singular style that's not necessarily me and not necessarily him. And it's its own style because we gravitate towards the same things. Like when we're on an online auction laying next to each other in bed at night and I'm like, do you like this light? He's like, yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm like, I think it would be great in the powder room. He's like, I hate it in the powder room, but I think it would be great in the kid's bedroom or whatever. And so we like the same stuff. We just interpret it and want to use it usually differently. His work is decidedly more modern than mine. Mine is much more classic than his because I come from an auction house background. I love the history of stuff and decorative arts, and I know a lot about it. He sort of learned as he went. But again, there's never just one right way to assemble a room. We all know that.
True. Yeah. You got to feel it. It's about the motions, the senses that you're extracting and how you've kind of come together. Well, your partnerships span everything from the Shade Store to Living Spaces, Cravat, PetSmart, and now Nate Home, and a number of new collaborations, including Rug USA. How do you decide which collaborations align with your vision, be it your personal and the brand itself?
I am in a massive rebirth of the brand this year. I've spent the last 12 months identifying partners in almost every category. I have over 15 launches coming up.
You better get going.
I know, right? But it's been a really interesting year for me. I had a partnership a couple of years ago that was kind of it was only online. It wasn't brick and mortar at all. Mm-hmm. We were selling a ton of stuff at Amazon, Nate Home. I got behind it. I really understood it. And it didn't work out. And it taught me a really important lesson that the partners that you partner with are equally as important as the ability to manufacture and produce beautiful things that people can afford. I'll never make that mistake again. And so what I chose to do, what I elected to do with my team, we sat around and we thought, okay, what categories can we legitimately be in? What are the top manufacturers? Who has the best distribution? Who will listen to us to preserve sort of the Nate Berkus name? Because it's a trusted name in design. It's something that's taken 30 years to build. So I wanted to protect it, but I wanted to partner with people that felt energetic. And then most importantly, it was all like instinct. Am I going to have a good time with them?
Right.
3:00 on a Friday afternoon going through fabric patterns, or is it going to be like drudgery? And I'm not interested in drudgery anymore. I'm not afraid of hard work, but I'm not interested in being miserable.
Right. Life's way too short for that. Well, you have 16 designs coming up with Rug USA.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
So what was the inspiration in the personal, I guess, designs you wanted to incorporate into this?
You know, Rugs USA is really interesting. I hadn't heard of Rugs USA. And then all the young people in my design firm were buying this one rug that looked like this mohair rug that I keep using over and over from this vendor called Mark Phillips. Mm-hmm. It's super expensive. It's magnificent, right? But it's like this mottled solid that comes in several colors that's really hard to find. And it was really inexpensive for the quality. Mm-hmm. And as an underpinning to all these young aspiring design assistants and everything, this was the rug that they were telling their friends they needed to put in their home. So we ordered it at the office and I looked at it, and then we reached out to Rugs USA and we had this conversation, and they said, well, yes, we're interested in, working together. And I told them this story about how they were like capturing like the TikTok, right, generation, the West Village girl, if you will, like whatever. And it was really interesting. And so for inspiration for that, I wanted to pull things that have never been done at that price point. The inspiration ranged from Chinese Art Deco rugs, but we took away a lot of those motifs, like no dragons. But it really French Art Deco rugs from the late 1930s, Italian mid-century tapestries from the 40s and the 50s, and then a solid program that felt really, really expensive. And that was largely inspired by men's suiting, Ralph Lauren, trying to understand like what can we do here with these substrates, with natural substrates. Mm-hmm. What can we do that it doesn't matter if it's in a room that costs $5,000 or a room that costs $500,000. I want that rug to be able to stand proud.
Right.
So much so that we just were working on a $25 million apartment here in New York City at Hudson Yards, and I used the Rugs USA collection in that house, and it looks amazing. So again, it's always been my goal to understand the best of the best and to take that and bring that down in a way that doesn't really sacrifice much to a price that people can have.
Well, keeping the integrity, but affordable.
Yeah. Like a heathered wool rug in gray is beautiful, or camel, like that's a forever piece without a forever price.
Right. You're not going to live forever. So
right.
Well, you have a lot of partnerships coming in the works for 2026, including the tile store, among others. Tell us a little bit about some of those that we can look forward to.
I have, so it's like I said, we're launching in like 10 categories, stationery, tile, a million decorative categories. But the tile shop's cool. They're huge. They have retail standalone. It's kind of a similar model to the Shade store. It's designed both for professionals and for end users and for contractors and such. And so again, when I start a partnership with any company, I really listen to what works for them. I really take a look at what their assortment is, what's selling best in their retail locations, what's selling best on their websites, and find the holes, and then insert myself with my perspective and my point of view, my sort of lens on top of what they're not doing already. So we're doing a lot of printed tile, inspired by historic floors. If you look at like the course of, the last several years of my career, I use a lot of checked marble in different combinations. We were able to create a printed version of that on porcelain that is virtually indestructible and again, super affordable. It's that whole collection is really about achieving that look, having that look, and again, the accessibility around it. And they're really, really good. They know what lasts. They know what they build relationships with the developers and contractors in their markets. Their sales team is really well trained. They just wanted me to come in, design a really interesting, special collection, and be able to explain where are the references from. So that's my job.
Fun.
Yeah, super fun.
It keeps you busy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had one piece of advice for a designer that's looking to get into product design or licensing, what would it be? And how would they go about it? Best case scenario, Nate Berkus way.
Wow. Well, the Oprah show's over, so that door has closed. Unfortunately. You know what I would probably say? I would probably say that's where you do lean on social media. Create something small batch and really, really exquisite. Because if you ever partner with a manufacturer, or you ever get noticed by a manufacturer, a big mass manufacturer, they can take your sort of bespoke, custom design and figure out how to apply that to a mass scale. And, if you do a good enough job, you'll get noticed. Press has something to do with that. Yeah. PR has something to do with that. Obviously, you want to be that's why I like champion all these small makers. That's what I love so much about building these spaces on behalf of other people. It's like, there's a woman named Rebecca Miles who hand paints plates in California. And she made a set of plates that Jeremiah gave me for my birthday one year. And they're treasures. Each one's different. She fires the clay herself and does the glaze and does the drawings and all of that. And they're sort of naive, like looking, but they're so special. And every time I set the table with them, somebody's like, "What are these? Who made these?" So I put it in Rue magazine, and I talk about them a lot because that's somebody someday who could have a collection with Lennox or something like that. Right. I think just focus on what your point of view is. Do it really, really well. sell it off of Instagram or TikTok or whatever. I buy stuff off of Instagram every day. I bought like little travel things for my face wash this morning. I'm just very excited for them to come. But you know, I think that it's I think don't as a new designer, it's very difficult to get the attention of these large retailers. As somebody who, you know, you start small. Start small and hold your head high and do a good job.
And I think, and have integrity and be proficient.
Yes.
I guess, in telling your story, and that you're not just copy and pasting. You know, don't do the trends.
No. You have to be consistently original.
Well, do you have a favorite collection or project that still makes you proud whenever you look at it or see it or revisit it?
I've really been proud of everything. I know that sounds crazy, but you know, these collections don't come about in 6 weeks. It takes years to get things to market or to get things to retail. So I've had the opportunity to edit everything and come up with the initial creative concepts. I'm most proud of the fact that I would say Meredith Smirchek, who's been on my team since day one, she and I still do this together. Every time we launch in a new category, we sit down together and we talk about the inspiration, and we talk about what patterns we want to create and what I want her to draw and where that should come from. And I'm constantly sending her things that, you know, I'll see a French rug from 1940 at an auction and I'll send it over to her and I'll say, this isn't for this collection, but let's hang on to this for our future, you know, collections. I feel really lucky that I've been able to build the career that I have. I love what I do. I'm not bored. I'm not tired. It's not just a cash play. Like, I don't know what, I guess I do know what else I could do, but this is really like, I landed doing exactly what I think I was meant to be doing. Well, and the human connection too.
Yeah. It feeds your soul and it feeds your brain. I mean, that's one part of this industry. It feeds all components of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Because you do get to create.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, travel has always been a huge influence of your work. Is there one place that shaped your design philosophy?
You know, there was definitely, when I was in college, I was able to do a program in Paris just for a semester. And I ended up figuring out how to negotiate with the school to stay an extra semester and still get credit. But I went and studied in Paris, and it wasn't necessarily Paris, but it was the fact of being a kid from Minnesota and California walking down ancient streets and surrounded by constant patination and history and age and character that shifted everything about how I look at all aesthetics. I like imperfection. I like, you know, every contractor I've ever worked with, if there's something to save, I save it. I bring in I use old salvage building materials almost in every project. I love an old fireplace with its original nicks and chips. I love old flooring. You know, I love old hardware. I mean, when Jer and I renovated our house in Los Angeles, he would drop me off at Liz's Antique Hardware on La Brea, and I'd pick me up like 9 hours later, and my hands were black, and I like smelled like metal, but I like dug through every single bin to find, you know, 37 somewhat matching doorknobs. Like, I just love that trip at that age changed how I looked at stuff. And that lesson is very much still with me every day.
Not everything has to be pristine and perfect.
That's not the world. Stand it. No, I can't stand it. I think, you know, and yet I design all these things that are brand new, but it's, you know, then it's the combination. You know, I'm never using someone's old mattress or, you know, grossed out by certain upholstery that's vintage. But, you know, I think that you have the new bedside tables, like you're almost obliged to find vintage lamps, you know, if you really want the room to be great.
Well, it gives a balance, like you said early on, something old, something borrowed, something blue, you know, it creates that balance. It doesn't have to be all museum or very clinical.
No,
you know?
Not at all. And it certainly doesn't all have to be, you know, living with two young kids. My kids are 10 and 7 now, but they grew up in and are growing up in homes that were obviously designed and photographed and all of that. So they're used to living around nice things.
Mhm.
And so many people have asked me over the years, like, how do you do that? How do you live with antiques and things that, you know, really matter to you and Jeremiah with like a 2-year-old? And my answer was always like, they're old. Like they're already ruined.
Yeah.
You know, like look at that kitchen table. Yeah. Like what are they going to do to it? Nothing. Like, you know, I would welcome a ring on a stone countertop. I love a nick, you know, another nick on a fireplace mantle. Like go for it. Ram your thing into it. Let's not be destructive.
Right.
Let's respect that daddies work really hard so that we can live this way. But like, you know, you can't really add more character. Like there's nothing wrong with adding more character to something that already you've welcomed into your home that already has inherent character.
Mm-hmm. True. It's got to take on. It evolves. It's a living. Yeah. You've had several shows, from the Nate Berkus show to Nate and Jeremiah by Design, and now the Nate and Jeremiah Home Project. How has storytelling through television shaped your role as a designer and also your perspective as a creative?
So I'm really grateful for the experience in design TV. I don't want to do that anymore, but I really loved doing it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not the most patient person I've ever met. And so the idea of that instant gratification, like being able to do a renovation and redesign a space and have it be done completely, photos in frames, fresh flowers in vases within a week or 2 weeks, works for my personality type. So that was awesome. The other thing is that I think it really just connects you to the world at large. You know, I live in New York City with my husband and my kids. We walk around the village. Like it's a little bit like, you know, what's going on out there. So being able to have been in all these states and all these places and really digging into these towns, whether it was Kirkland, Washington, or Cleveland, Ohio, or wherever I was and found myself, it made me realize that, you know, not everybody obviously has the same perspective or access. And sometimes design can be even more meaningful in a place where it seems like it's a little harder to come by. And I became an expert at sourcing. You know, what is there? Land in Cleveland, Ohio 25 years ago. Where are the antique shops? Where's the fabric store? Who's the best upholsterer? Where's his, you know, shop or her shop? Who can make window treatments? Who can carve wood? Like you have to figure who's a metal maker, metalsmith, like, you know, all that stuff. And I love that part of my job.
Did going through that, was that part of the instructions or the base foundation of foundations also?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, definitely. Because I'm the guy that no matter where I am, I will come home with something. And, you know, it's funny, many years ago, do you remember the One Kings Lane?
Yes.
Okay. So many years ago, One Kings Lane invited me and Jeremiah to Peru on a buying trip. They were doing this, they had massive budgets at the time. They were doing these trips around the world. Martin Bullard did one as well. But we would go with the One Kings Lane team and we would buy the best of what we could find, and then it would be for sale on One Kings Lane. So 2 things happened on that trip. One, I fought with Susan Feldman, who owned One Kings Lane, because I wanted to keep 90% of the stuff that we found. And she was like, I'm paying for you to be here. That is going on the site. That was kind of funny. And Jared and I got engaged on the top of Machu Picchu. So it was an extremely meaningful trip. But one lesson that really, and memory that I always kind of think about from that trip is that we were on this mountaintop in the Urubamba Valley, where we had come through Cusco and come by train to Machu Picchu. And the country is magnificent. I mean, beyond. And we went to this place that our guide had obviously planned us to go to, where they had rugs and textiles, all vegetable dyed, amazing things. And we were kind of on the side of a mountain. There was like this one little house there or building. And we bought a lot of the rugs because I knew that it would kind of resonate on One Kings Lane. Right. But then when we went into the little like hut, we were sitting on these cushions very primitive, like simple. And we were sitting on these cushions, and they were made out of this fabric that looked like an Armani suit from the 90s. Like, it was this woven fabric, heavy wool, herringbone. And I was like, what is this? I know we're not here to look at this. And they were like, that's like the fabric of the region. Like, that's what people carry potatoes in. We just make everything out of it. And I was like, is it wool? And they were like, yeah, wool is so durable and washable, and, you know, and all, and it rains here and all of that. And I was like, where do we buy this? And so we went back to Cusco as part of our itinerary. And I said, where's the local market? I don't want to go to the market where everything's made in China. I want to go to the market where, like, the people of Cusco shop, where they buy their pots and pans. And we went to that market, and there was bolts and bolts and bolts of that fabric. And I bought it all.
Wow.
And made suits, made pillows. We still have pillows made out of that fabric. But it was maybe 5 cents a yard. That, to me, is a treasure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff that I'm looking for when I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's being out in the world. You know, TV gave me the opportunity to meet the actual people that might buy a bath mat someday.
Mm-hmm.
And travel gives me the opportunity to understand what sometimes the simplest thing that represents a culture might be, and bring it back here and play with it my way.
Love it. I love that story. Do you feel television gave people permission to see design not as luxury, but more as a part of everyday life?
100%.
Yeah.
I was at an event with Martha Stewart recently, who randomly wants to talk about pierogies, not design, which is great. And who can blame her, because they're delicious. But she was like, "You like them?" I was like, "A lot." But we were talking, and I said to her, you know, back in the day, when I was doing all the makeovers on Oprah and everything, and you were you know, you have the credit, really, of democratizing design. Of making people think about how to move through their experiences in their home differently. And it most definitely took the emphasis off of the hidden codes and the weird sort of, you know,
you're
systems.
not in the right club.
Yeah. Like it, you know, and that's great. And I still believe that so strongly. You know, design should have never been only for the wealthy. Mm-hmm. Design is for everybody.
And it's part of our time on this planet is design and being involved in it and appreciating it, just like art. You know, we're humans and we have a sense of our own lives, and design is part of that.
Absolutely.
And we're making our mark with it. You've always emphasized that homes should tell a story. Is there a story perhaps from a client project that has stayed with you and resonated that you kind of collectively think about sometimes?
I've always said home should tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, many years ago, again, another Oprah show story, but like, you know, many years ago, I'll never forget this. The producers found out about a little boy whose twin brother died. And he and his mother were making cookies together, and they named and selling the cookies, and they named the cookie company after his twin. He was 8. And I don't know where the producers of the Oprah show used to get all their, you know, ideas, but often it had run on the local news or something. And then somebody at Harpo would get wind of it, and then we would go. So we went, and we thought it would be really amazing to give them a dream kitchen in Baltimore, Maryland. You know, let's celebrate that this kid, that's how he's moving through his grief, and how beautiful and what a cool thing. And they should have a really nice stove, don't you think? So we arrived in Baltimore, and I arrived that day, and we interviewed the mom, who you could see was really nowhere near okay. And then the brother, the little boy, I was asking him questions about the cookie company and about his life and about the loss of his brother. And as he was answering in these like incredibly succinct, beautiful, complete full sentences, just unbelievably articulate. And as he was speaking, I looked up and I could see on the white ceiling of their existing kitchen all the marks from all the mics that had interviewed him. And I listened to everything he had to say, and then I left. And I called Oprah and the team, and I said, he doesn't want to make cookies. He's doing that for his mother. Mm-hmm. Every answer that he gave me when I was sitting down with him was something that he's said 500 times before to 1 million reporters. And there's marks all over the ceiling from the lighting and the mic stands and everything else that this house, since this kid's death, this is a news story that somebody else has crafted. Right. This is not what this kid wants. And it was just a really interesting experience because I asked the mom, you think he really wants to be doing this? And she said, oh, yes, and I said, we'll give you a kitchen either way. Right. I just really want to understand what's happening here. Like, I'm here to make a new kitchen. Mm-hmm. I'm just asking if you think this is all real. Right, right. And she broke down and she said, you know what? I can't drive past my son's school. I can't. The date comes up. I take to my bed for 2 weeks prior. I'm a mess. And I said, I understand that. And finally I went back to the son and I said, do you really want to be making cookies with your mom? And he said, no, I want to go to camp. I don't want to be stuck in the kitchen with my mom. I said, I wouldn't want to be stuck in the kitchen with my mom either. It's okay, right? So we redid their kitchen. The last Oprah show I ever did, they were invited back. And the mom said that it was an incredible experience because I gave her permission not to be afraid of the date of the anniversary or the holidays. Because I told her, because I'd been through the Indian Ocean tsunami and lost my partner, I told her, let yourself not get out of bed on a Tuesday, but let's not ruin Christmas every year. Right. Let yourself feel what you need to feel when you need to feel it. And give yourself permission for that. But this apprehension you have to let go, and you kind of have to let your son out of this cookie thing. Mm-hmm. He wants to go to space camp. He just told me we're going to enroll him, but he wants to go. So, that stayed with me forever and will stay with me forever. And that, I think, is what, if you relate that back to makeovers and TV and all of this, Foundations is about me listening to what everybody's asked me over the last 30 years. And my TV experience was also about me listening to what was really going on, what was being said and what's not being said. And good design and good designers are great listeners to what's being said and also what's not being said. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's that connectivity that you have to the other human and listening, I think, is part of design. I think a lot of people don't realize it, how much we have to extract from a person to know who they are, to better suit as a professional.
To serve them.
Yeah.
We serve them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Nate, you've been called one of America's most trusted voices in design. What does that mean to you? And is there a weight of responsibility that you think you carry because of that?
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a lot of integrity. I've tried to maintain that. I've made mistakes, obviously, like everybody does. I think when you're navigating a bunch of different partnerships and all of that, you have to make concessions. You have to listen as well to what everyone else is telling you. But I think that there is a responsibility that comes along with that. And, it's more like, don't fuck it up.
Right. Because the eyes are watching.
Yeah, exactly. They're all watching. Everybody's watching all the time. Just stay the course.
Yeah, exactly. You got to sell your book.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What is one object in your home that best tells your story?
I mean, I no one's going to believe me when I say this, but literally almost every object, except for any cooking utensil, which I don't care about or know how to use, Almost everything in every decorative thing in my home is tied to a memory or a place or a person. And that could be a recent memory with the kids. It could be a memory with a girlfriend when I lived in Chicago and we would hit the flea markets on Saturdays or whatever it was. But I can walk through my home and stop and tell you what each decorative object reminds me of. There's not really one thing. There's some really powerful things, some real totems in there, things that represented Fernando, things that represent the birth of our daughter Poppy, things that represent the move to New York and Oscar's first week at his new school. Like things that represent amazing trips that Jeremiah and I
place and time.
Yeah. But it's all in there. It's really all in there.
What roles, you've done so much and you've played so many different roles. What role feels most authentic to you?
Father. It's true. 100% true.
I'm not a father, father of a dog, but
father and husband. Yeah. Those are again, people, pets, then things. That's always been also a part of kind of how I move through the world.
Becoming a creative and a designer, we go through a lot of challenges. What was one of the most earliest and biggest challenges that you faced?
I think it was sourcing. I think that's also like one of the reasons why like your Instagram designer is not going to be able to actually do your home. I think, I remember when I had my very first client, they lived next to Michael Jordan in Highland Park, Illinois. And I went and had the meeting and I love her and I liked her and she loved me and liked me. And we thought, let's do this. And I was very honest with her that this was like my first big job. I had just quit the auction house and printed my business cards. And she said, we were walking through her house, very contemporary house. And she said, I really want to do a wall of custom millwork here. And I was like, absolutely. What a great idea. And wrote it down in my little fancy notebook, custom millwork wall. And I got in my car and I was like, who does that? Who draws that? Not me. Like, where do I find that? And I like literally drove home from the suburbs of Chicago back to the city. And the entire time I was obsessing on the fact that I had just sold this person on hiring me, negotiated my rates and my hourly fees and all of that. And that was all done, but I didn't know how to do anything. And I ended up going to Ralph Lauren on Michigan Avenue, which had a ton of millwork. And I asked the store manager who did the millwork. And he said, let me find out. And he went back and then came back and he said, oh, is this company called Detmers. They're here in Chicago. And I said, great. And I called them and I said, I'm a brand new designer. I've never designed millwork before. They said, no problem. Come on in. We'll show you how to do it. We'll walk you through the process. Said, I have a client in Highland Park that wants a wall of paneling and bookshelves. And they said, great. We'll come up, we'll measure on site, and then you can come to our office and sit down with us and we'll ask you all the questions that we need.
Right.
But then we'll let you see sort of behind the scenes in the process. And I was so grateful to them. I was 24 years old and they took the time to bet on a young designer. I used them for 700 things subsequently. So, I think that still sourcing today is my favorite part of what I do. Whether it's online auctions in the middle of the night, my husband thinks I should go to GA. Like he's like, this is low grade gambling. I'm like, is it? It feels high grade right now.
A little addiction.
I'm like TikTok. But I really like to know, like even before I sat down and you mentioned the furniture maker that you were talking about, like I will go online and look at their body of work. And understand what they're doing in Dumbo and like that I love. I love it. I love find new ways to find vintage, new ways to bring more people and makers into the fold. I think that that's the coolest part about being a designer.
Absolutely. Well, it's a sort. It is addiction. It's like shopping.
It is. It's only shopping.
Yeah. And
I'm a great shopper. And my mother was a great shopper. So, that's what that is.
And I think part of it is finding those artisans and craftsmen that are still doing things by hand. They're creating by hand. And it's such a knack and such a talent that's few and far between. So as you mentioned in Peru, in that fabric, it's like the beauty of design and people still working with their hands.
100%.
Yeah.
I love stuff made by hand. I always, whether it's a basket or a textile or a silver bowl or a sculpture, or it doesn't even matter what it is. I mean, we set our table with placemats that are woven straw that were $1 each in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put our, hand painted plates and our sterling flatware or whatever. But it's like, and our napkins are hand woven in Mexico from the flea market. I talk about all those philosophies in the book, like how we tend to be such snobs and we're like so concerned about, something's provenance. But when something's made by hand, the quality of that should sit next to the highest quality thing you have.
Absolutely.
So, that's the pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's the free pass to come into an interior. Somebody made this pottery, woven things, textiles, metalwork. Come on in.
Mm-hmm. It's that connection between art and design.
Yes.
Because it's
craft and design.
Absolutely. Well, you and Jeremiah have built both a family and a business together. How has that partnership changed your outlook on design and on life?
We have very distinct businesses. He's got his brand. He's got his licensing partners. He's got his manufacturing partners, and I have mine. We collaborate very rarely on interiors outside of our own.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one family who are like some of our closest friends who live in Montecito. We've done 3 homes for them and we do it together. And that's been really fun. But, again, like all ships rise,
right?
I promote everything that he does. He promotes everything that I do. It would be weird not to, I always say I'm the president of his fan club and he's mine. We're not competitive at all. In the end, it's all for our kids.
Right.
So, let's go.
Right.
Like, let's go get and do everything we can because it's really for those two.
Mm-hmm. The investment to them.
100%.
What excites you most about the future, whether in design, publishing, or even new ventures that are forthcoming or not there yet?
I think I'm going to take this period and build up the brand and into all these different categories for the next few years. And then I'd like to sell. I'd like to sell the whole brand to somebody who will take it internationally, Asia, do whatever it is. I've laid such a foundation all these years of sales and successful partnerships and out earning all these things and blah, 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 whatever. So that's the end goal, and maybe be in Portugal with the kids.
On the beach.
Yeah. On the beach in the countryside, let's see where everything goes, by the way.
Right. Well, Nate, finally, when people look back at Nate Berkus's career decades from now, what do you hope they'll say about your work and your legacy, and also your legacy in the design industry?
I hope they say that I was really fun to work with and I was a really good guy, period. Not everybody agrees with my work. Not everybody has the same viewpoints as I do on how to assemble a space, and they shouldn't. But I've really loved this career so far, and I still love it. So I just would like people to know that I didn't take myself so seriously, because I don't, and that I've had a really good time.
That's important. That's an important factor. What's next? Foundations 2?
You know what? It's funny. We have some really interesting TV stuff on the sort of docket right now. There's 3 different TV projects in development. I'm not sure which will go or if any of them will go, but they're not home makeover related. So that's been really interesting. I'm working on a show about sourcing in the secondary market and all of that, which I think is really fun and I'd kill to do and host. But I'm not sure, I'm really not sure. I think I'll continue to build out all these categories. There's going to be a lot of launches this year. I'll be promoting those things and from a PR and marketing standpoint, and hopefully there'll be several subsequent collections that will come out with these partners. Mm-hmm. But I'm in a good spot right now. I feel really creative. I feel really energized. I have the right team around me. Again, like I said, I'm not tired. I'm not out of ideas.
When do you sleep?
I'm not out of ideas. I actually sleep a lot. Like I really do. It's a little bit crazy. Like I've really found over the last 5-6 years how to kind of give everything I have mm-hmm. when it's in front of me mm-hmm. and then just unplug.
So where can someone find Foundations and when does it come out?
It comes out November 18th. Okay. The easiest place is obviously online. They can order it directly through Simon & Schuster. They can order it from Rizzoli. Mm-hmm. They can order a signed copy from Rizzoli, actually, which is great. But let me know on Instagram if they're having a problem finding it. I can make sure that doesn't happen.
All right. One last question, Nate. What does the word home mean to you?
It's also a really beautiful question. For me personally, it means the walls within we are crafting and helping to craft the experience of these two kids. I'm deeply connected to home as a concept. I love the way we live. I love where we live. I love changing how we live. Home for me is the place where you get to have what I've always called the moments in between. The little moments. It's not the grand gesture. It's not the expensive vacation. It's not the fancy dinner that you throw. It's the dancing around the kitchen island before school, or the Sunday afternoon we're all together watching a movie, or the fun nights when friends come over and you order takeout in pajamas. Like, I love those moments in between. They matter to me.
20 years from now, when Poppy and Oscar are older, how are you going to tell them who Nate Berkus was, or who he was, and what he provided?
I don't think I'll need to.
No?
No, I think they'll know.
Oh, no?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it, Nate. I appreciate your time today, and thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Nate Berkus has never simply designed homes. He's designed connections, emotions, and the quiet poetry of living well. His legacy is one of empathy, honesty, and enduring beauty, a foundation built to last. Thank you, Nate, for your insight, warmth, and capturing the essence of design storytelling. This is Beyond the Design. Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.